So I was the first tour rep, I was the first sales rep, I was the first telemarketer, I did collections, I did shipping, I did, we literally had a night where we built 1,000 putters together as a team because we had to get an order to Japan. And so it was really baptism by fire, but such a great memory. And the golf industry is a really kind industry. One of the things I'm most proud of, Michael was a great mentor, but and as was Mr. Flood. But I think I probably had arguably, or I think inarguably, the two greatest mentors you could have in the golf industry, which was Ely Callaway, who started Callaway Golf, and Gary Adams, who started TaylorMade Golf. And so they really took me under their wings. I was a 23-year-old kid and totally didn't know what I was doing, but they formed almost all of my product development philosophies, all my marketing philosophies, all my corporate culture philosophies. And so, if I have been blessed with success, a lot of it has been because of the people who taught me all these incredible lessons.
That's a really I gotta be honest, that's a great story because, usually most of the people that I have on the show have, come up through golf some other way. Maybe they played and made their way through collegiate golf. Some went on to play professional golf. Some went on to the teaching side of things. Others invented products and things like that. But what's uniquely interesting about your story is that somebody saw something in you very early on to the point they said, we want you, and which is very unheard of. We want you to stop your education for the moment because we've got something for you to do. But I want you to know that I'm going to pay for your education at a later point when it's appropriate. And so I'm assuming obviously he did that at some point.
Yeah, Michael did. He was like a big brother to me, and yeah, he absolutely paid for my MBA, and or Odyssey paid for my MBA,
Okay.
um and I don't know if he saw potential or if I was the only sucker who was willing to work for $200 and work 6 7 days a week and not get paid for quite a while, but whatever, why it happened, who knows, but it happened, and it's certainly been a blessing.
Would you say, in addition, obviously, to your collegiate um, education, would you say that the education that Mike and others have given you would be on par with that education, meaning that what you learned working through Odyssey and other opportunities before you're doing what you do now, would you say that what you learned, not so much about the golf business, but just how to really apply yourself in such a way that you obviously were an asset to them, whether it was for $200 or for nothing, working nights, weekends, what have you, there was a great learning opportunity, as you pointed out. Do you feel that that was on par or maybe even above par?
I think it was on Eagle. I think it was better because learning in the classroom is great, but there's nothing like actually doing it. And again, the golf industry is a really kind industry. And so when I was out working, and besides Michael and Mr. Flood, there was great people like Brad Adams, who's like my brother in the golf industry. He taught me, I mean, I think he's just brilliant in how he looks at things. And Brian Pond was our product development engineer and lead and designer. And Michael Brower was incredible from operations. So I was just really blessed to be surrounded by a bunch of people who are not only smart and talented, but also really willing to help, because I was, I felt like I did have potential, but I was just willing to do whatever it took to succeed. And I actually think one benefit from not coming through maybe the blue bloodline to the golf industry was that I didn't have any preconceived notions about the way things should be done. And so I just tried to innovate in terms of how do you work with the press, and I mean, I literally remember working with, people from the press, like, from Golf Digest and, great legends of the game who are writers. And Michael told me, like, you need to get press for us, but I didn't know what to do. So I would literally call the editor of Golf Digest and be like, I'm 23. I've never done this before. They asked me what to do this. Can you tell me what I'm supposed to do? And people like Guy Yoakum and Mark Godich and Steve Donahue and Tim Murphy and all these incredible writers. They'd be like, well, you need to write a press release. I'll send you an example. This is what it looks like. So many people like helped me get to a point of success because they could have all just been mean and told me, "Oh, figure it out yourself," but they didn't. They all helped, and they helped me figure it out. And even on tour, I went out on. I was the first Odyssey tour rep, and I was shy because I was this kid and I wasn't a great golfer at that point, and I was going to the senior tour first. And now the senior tour is really, they were happy because they never really expected the senior tour at that point. We're talking the early 1990s, and they were making more money on the champions, or at that point the senior tour, than they did their entire careers. And I'm talking about Arnold Palmer, Jack
Oh,
Nicklaus,
yeah.
Gary Player, like Lee Trevino, like the greatest players of all time, made more in one season on the senior tour than they did in their entire careers, because the purses were so different. And I remember not even being, sitting on the side of the green, not wanting to disturb them. And people like Gary Player telling me like, "Hey kid, pick up your putter. Let's putt." Or George Archer, great old player,